Hello and welcome to the Paradigm Shift, Conquering Fear and Aligning to the Awakening. I'm Mia Saenz, your host, and with me this segment is Dr. Mary Ayers. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Mia, for having me.
Thank you for being here. You're a psychologist. Well, I'll let you tell your story. Can you bring us up to speed on what got you to the point you are now? Because part of the glorious viewing is to learn about you.
How I got here. Well,
Yes.
I've actually been it's a therapist. Psychologist is slightly different. I'm a therapist.
Okay.
I've been a therapist for 26 years. I've been a coach for probably around 10 now. You know how it is. Time goes by and you forget to add something to it. You know, you've been saying something for so long. Probably about 10 now at this point in time. And I've had a great career. I've really enjoyed what I do. At about 10 years ago, I made a shift in how I approach my work with people, which is one of the things that we're going to share today. So I'm going to kind of leave it a little bit of a mystery. But as far as that shift, it was to be able to make action easier, and it really had a lot to do with the fear. So if you want me to tell that story of how I brought into this new tool to use.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, here's how I frame it. As a child, I was pretty much a latchkey child, and I know a lot of people can relate to this, but I was always afraid. I remember being always afraid being home by myself, and it just felt like, looking back, most of my life, I've done things. Most people would consider me, some people would consider me adventurous, and that might be true, but at the same time, I think to myself, but I've always been afraid, and yet I've taken those kinds of action. And so, I love your little friend back there.
That's what I was. It looked like my head had a tail. She's playing with her daddy.
Yes, for Halloween. So, most of the things that I've had to do, I've always done pushing myself through, and I think a lot of people who are afraid feel that. They've always had to push themselves through. I mean, remember back in the 80s, that book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, came out. And we've always pushed our way through it. You know, we've just gone, okay, I know I'm afraid I'm going to have to push myself, but it's exhausting doing that time after time after time. And what really, I think there was an event in our second daughter at 17 months was diagnosed with diabetes. And we had taken her into the hospital, and the diabetic educator came to train my husband and I on how to give her insulin shot. Now, I am deathly afraid of needles. And so we sat there, and she did taking out the syringe and sticking it into the bottle, and then she turned to me and she stuck her arm in my face and she goes, "Now give me a shot." And I froze. I just kind of froze, stood up, ran out, and they came in and they did that typical thing that people will do, which is kind of the tough cop thing. And they came in and they said to me, "Listen, that's your daughter. You've got to figure this out." And I just looked at them, and it was as if I stepped into a new place that I found in myself, and I said, "Listen, I will do this the way I need to do this. Back off. I understand, but I got to do it right." And so I did. And at that time, I didn't have what I'll introduce people to, something I call, it's just tapping. I didn't have it then. So I did what a lot of people do, which is desensitization, right? Which is just exposure. Let me put myself in front of it 9,000 times. And that's what I did. It was the only tool I had at the time. And I would take that syringe and put it in my hand and open it and look at it, and, back and forth. That's how I could do that dozens of times. And then I would take it and put it into the bottle. I broke it down into these itty-bitty steps that continued to build on each other till I finally could go in and do her shot. But it left me, it really did leave me with a trauma on my hands about how people approach people with fears and how they just push them. They think that is a good strategy.
Right, get over it.
Yeah, it's the teachers, it's the gym instructor, who's going to yell at you and say to you, "This is my motivational style. You know, I'm going to yell at you to get you to do it. And trust me, anybody with fear knows you may do it once, but you're going to figure out a way to avoid ever having to do that again.
Right.
And so it became my quest to do things differently and introduce people to a way of saying, you can do things, we just have to do it differently.
Right. Right.
So I know, I think I mentioned to you, I said, you know, the book I'm writing is called The Chicken Shit's Guide to Success. And every time I say that, somebody goes, ooh, that's me.
I love that. I have a question for you. In our world, so many people are doing a lot of reading and working on themselves, and they don't take it into their heart and their being. So they don't actually, they can't seem to get better. Why? I know why that is, but why do you think that is?
You know, and as a coach, you and I both have had people who will tell us that they've tried things hundreds of times. They've attended all the programs. And not only have I been a therapist and a coach, but I coached for 5 years with the Anthony Robbins Company. And so a lot of people will recognize that name as somebody who's human growth and potential motivational type speaker. And that style is very much as we were just saying, kind of a get up there and just do it, push through it type of a thing. I think that I know that when we have internal reasons for why we shouldn't be taking an action step, we will stop. We will just absolutely stop. We won't understand why we are. We'll call ourselves lazy, slacker. We'll call ourselves unmotivated. You know, we call ourselves a lot of procrastinators, a favorite one for people. And yet, it's not because we really, that's our behavior, those are the symptoms. It's not really the guts of it. It's not at the root of what is getting in the way of why we aren't taking those actions. So a lot of people turn to buying another program, buying another book. They figure if they just know more how to do something, then that will be the thing that will get them. They just need one more book, one more program, one more elevator speech, one more networking group.
Exactly. Instead of centering their core and listening to the divine, their higher self. Yeah. And it's surprising to me, but it happens.
Well, and people have been trained out of it. There's always a program that will tell you, I will teach you how to make $1 million. And rarely ever does it speak of fear and getting past that. It is a lot of hows. Do a website, start a business, join a leads group, go to, a speaking engagement. And not that there are anything wrong with those. Okay? It's just that after a while, we start gathering up a list of things that we've attempted and haven't completed. And now we take it on ourselves and start calling ourselves a litany of names. We can be so unkind, thinking that if I internalize that voice, I'll get myself to kick myself in the rear end.
Right.
And, unfortunately, it really decreases our confidence, and we don't internalize it.
Right now, it also makes me realize how most of society raises their children on commands as opposed to teaching them to think for themselves. So I know that that's how it was with me. It took me a long time. And it's not that I read all the books, the self-help books. I really just did a lot of praying, connecting to the divine. Because for me, that's my source of information. And my husband and I go back and forth on this because his spiritual way was to read a lot and then to, imbue it in his body and go forth. Mine is almost the opposite. Mine is listening, and now I'm starting to listen to what other people are saying, But I think we stop and we sabotage ourselves because we're not taught in a loving way, which is part of what we're doing in this summit and other, is to teach people how to love yourself. Also, that's so funny because I am a self-love teacher, but to get over the fear, because if people just, and I'm going to edit this part out because I'm stumbling. Here we go again. If people just realize that everything that they do is perfectly perfect right now, then they can go forward without fear, I think, as well. But I just wanted to bring up that correlation of it's not, uncommon for this to happen, and I believe it goes back. What do you think about that?
Oh,
You're the doctor.
And here's what I would say. It's I've been teaching parenting for 26 years, and I've created my own parenting program called Raising Children Who Can Change the World.
Oh, I love that.
Because of exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
It is that very same thing of how do you teach children to think instead of just take commands, because you can't throw them out there in the world at 18 and then expect them to be able to think for themselves. But I even have, there is even a higher calling for me in that particular parenting class that I have. And I know we're not talking about that, so everybody's going to go.
No, but it is important. It goes along this whole lines of understanding. Is that when we teach them to think, then they will go out into the world and help others who haven't been taught to think how to think. They'll be able to ask them great questions. They'll have listening skills that encourage accepting differences and seeing things from different perspectives without having to be at odds with each other and creating conflict in order to be able to do that. It's very much a modeling of how you do that, and parents don't recognize that it happens in their parenting. It's not just about keeping that room clean, and we all understand that. We all understand that kids need to be brushed and homework needs to be done, and it's not it. But it's helping them have a different way. It's the same that we're talking about. I'll bring it back to what we are talking about is fear. My bent is being able to go about it from a different approach, being okay, having a different way of doing it. One that gives you more freedom and helps you tap into your inner voice and respect your way of doing it. Right. Let's talk into a word you just said, tap. Let's talk.
Let me back up and do this. Because what is fear, right? Is why do we get afraid of something, especially something new? So the way that we're programmed, that we're put together as a human being, is to keep ourselves safe, which is the equivalent of keeping yourself alive. Right? So while we are definitely spiritual beings, we also live in this little suit that has a very big interest in just being alive and seeing tomorrow and surviving. Okay? So our mind, we as humans have this capacity to think about something that we want to do, to transport an idea into the future, anticipate the possible problems, concerns, dangers, and then make a decision right here and now about whether or not we want to take that action. So if I have sent these little feelers out into the public, out into the future, and I have entertained the fact that I could be attacked, I could be embarrassed, I could be humiliated, it could be too much responsibility, right? Whatever it is. So let me tell you a little bit about what fear is, what's really happening to us when we fear something. We get an idea to do something new, okay, or whether that's just travel or go do something, or it's new to us, starting a business, taking an action, which we were kind of talking about.
Right.
And we aren't taking the action. We're gathering information, but we're not taking the action. We don't know why. Well, here's what's happening on the inside, is we have the capacity to shoot our mind into the future and anticipate, take a look around and anticipate what are all the potential dangers out there for us, okay, of taking this new action. And if we proceed at any time that we could be rejected, we could be criticized, we could be overwhelmed, we could be embarrassed, humiliated, all right? Our brain comes back into our present and says, don't take that action. There's danger out there, all right? So fear is just really an action readiness program. It's something that is preparing us for some potential danger. But not only do we go out into the future and anticipate what could happen, as we've done that, we start to run the program right here and now. So while I'm here, I've done nothing. I haven't moved from my chair. This is those great movies where they have that, they hook people up.
Right, right.
And they have them at future travel and
Yes.
they never ever left the chair.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And all of a sudden I haven't left the chair. My mind went ahead. It anticipated all this danger. And it came back and it decided, don't do anything. If you don't take any action, this is its solution. If you don't take any action, you'll never have that potential danger. Now, the other thing it's doing is it's reviewing the past. So it's saying, where have I been embarrassed before? Where have I been rejected before? Where have I been humiliated before? And come on, we've all lived in a world where all of those things have already happened. Some degree. So when my mind makes the assessment that that feeling I had in the past has a potential in the future, that's a recipe for being what we would call stuck. But our mind says it's keeping us safe.
Right.
It's saying this is a solution. The reason people come to coaches, to people like you and me, is because they're saying my solution is now my problem. That, the solution I got to not do anything,
Yeah.
I am fighting tooth and nail about it.
Right.
So we're not trying to get rid of fear. Really, you couldn't do that. We're human beings. We have an innate need to survive, protect ourselves. We're not going to do that. But we do need to help our bodies be able to differentiate between fear that's real and the ability to take an action. So kind of coming back near where we had started with, when you had asked, I said to everybody, I got them all sitting on the edge of their seat, about the change that happened for me was intellectually, most therapy, okay, and a lot of coaching, I will say this too, comes from a cognitive standpoint. In other words, it's trying to help people see something different. They have a way of seeing it, we'll call it irrational, because it's, whether or not it's true, we don't know. Okay? Based on their past, it feels true to them. But we're trying to help them see it differently. That's a cognitive restructuring type of a thing. But fear is felt in the body. And when your body is feeling a fear like you're being chased by a lion, your cognitive, it shuts down. You don't need to know how to do things when you need to be running to save your life.
Right.
All right? So there was a body component that wasn't available to me, but I learned a tool that I refer to as tapping. It's really got a name called Emotional Freedom Technique. I just call it tapping. That really combines both. It combines the cognitive and the body. Because when we can get our body to start to calm down, then we allow our cognitive, the parts of our brain that have problem solving, creativity, access to the divine, open up. So I'm really glad that we're getting a chance to talk about this, because you're talking about a paradigm shift. And to me, the introduction of tapping into what would normally be called more of a cognitive, motivational type of thing that most of us are have books about and programs about, it adds a component that's different, brings the two together, and it is, in my book, it is the paradigm shift. You do that.
Wonderful. And you were going to do a little experiential on us.
Thank you. I'm very much looking forward to that. So let me tell you a little bit about what tapping is. I'll do this quickly because I know there are going to be people who don't understand. Again, like I said, there's a emotional freedom technique, is EFT, is what it's referred to. It is a tapping. We use our fingertips to tap on certain areas of the body that are more, there is more electrical current through certain areas of the body. So for instance, my husband's an acupuncturist. Okay? Where he puts needles in are points of the body that they know. They know this through mechanics. This isn't just far-fetched. That there is more electrical conductivity in certain points in the body. Okay? And that the whole idea behind it is just to keep energy moving, because it health and creativity stem from energy that is freely moving. Okay? So when we have a thought, a belief, or the action, that is an indicator that there's something in our brain that is firing, a group of neurons that are creating our system to be in a heightened adrenaline experience. And we're stuck. We're in a fight or flight pattern. So by tapping on certain areas of the body, we help relax the body. We kind of sedate the body. We know that there's an increase of endorphins after an acupuncture treatment. We're going to use the same spots except we use our fingers. All right? So may I walk you through it? Will you just follow?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll do the best.
Yeah. So here's what I'd like people to do, is find something, because we're talking about a fear, is think about something. They can either use a present or a past, that when they think about it, they feel the fear now. They feel some sense of it. Okay? Excuse me. It could be something that they have to do, okay, but they're hesitating doing. If you will just think of something that is, for you, maybe it's causing a little resistance. You feel a little bit of resistance to doing it. Maybe it could be fear, could be resistance. But I'm going to differentiate between the two. Because there's a subtle difference, but it's a fun one to play with. That's why I say that.
Okay.
So then we say, on a scale of 0 to 10, how strong is that feeling in you? So if it's something that you resist, is it a resistance or something that you're afraid of? Just, you don't have to tell us what it is, but just give me an idea.
Well, I'm resisting because I'm a little fearful.
So when you think of the fear of that, okay, or the resistance, just measure it. It's just a measurement. 0 is none, 10 is high. What would you say it is?
Probably about a 7.
Okay. So notice, here we are, you're sitting in the seat, you're thinking about something, you're at a 7. Okay? The likelihood of you getting to it, or putting it on the back burner, or procrastinating, is pretty high at a 7. You're going to have to push yourself through to do it. Okay. And normally this is where people would say, I'm either putting it off, doing something else, or I'm going to push myself through. But this is a different way. This is why I get tired of just pushing through everything. So people just kind of find something, they measure it like this, and then what we do is we start on this spot, we call it the karate chop. So this is, see my hand, it's over here on the baby finger side, it's patting over exactly where you are, and I'm going to take, because I'm right-handed, I'm tapping on my left, and I'm going to tap right here along the side. Okay? And as I do that, I'm just going to have you repeat after me. We're going to make a statement. And the statement is that feeling I don't want to have. So even though I have this resistance, would that be it, or more of a fear? Which do you think would be a better fit for you? Fear or resistance?
Well, I have some business to take care of with somebody who used to be a partner, and he and I'm just fearful of coming in contact right now because I don't want to, relive the pain. And in our correspondence, it's still snappy. So it's a fear that's bringing up major resistance.
So would you say, if I said, I don't want to do it, does it feel that kind of, I don't want to do it?
I think it's getting to that point, yes.
Don't want to do it?
Yes.
So what we're going to do is we want to say the feeling that you have, which is the fear and resistance. And we're going to say, I accept myself even though I have it. So we start here, okay, and you just follow me. Even though I have this fear and resistance.
Even though I have this fear and resistance.
I love and accept myself anyhow.
I love and accept myself anyways. Anyhow.
Even though I can feel this fear and resistance.
Even though I can feel this fear and resistance.
When I think about that thing I have to do.
When I think about that thing I have to do.
I'm accepting myself now.
I'm accepting myself now.
Even though I can feel this fear and resistance.
Even though I can feel this fear and resistance.
I really don't want to do it.
I really don't want to have anything to do with them.
I'm going to love and honor myself anyhow.
I'm going to love and honor myself anyhow.
Now we're going to take 2 fingers. And I take 2 fingers from my right hand, again, because it's just my dominant side. And we're going to tap right here at the beginning of the eyebrow.
Okay.
Okay, so for people, it's on the nose side. There you go. You're right on it. Okay, and we say this fear and resistance.
This fear and resistance.
And we're tapping. Yeah, go ahead and tap a little bit. There you got it. And we're going to come around here to the side of the eye. Okay, just come around here.
Not tap the whole thing?
You don't have to tap the whole
thing. Okay. So here to here. Okay.
It's called the side of the eye, and we say this fear and resistance.
This fear and resistance.
What we're doing is we're reminding ourselves the thing that I can feel. This is what the statement is, under fear, about that thing I don't want to do.
Okay. About the thing I don't want to do.
Underneath the nose, right here, I don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it.
On the chin, I really don't want to do it.
I really don't want to do it.
Now we're going to do something. It's called the collarbone, and it's right here. We just take a fist and kind of hit right here. Okay? This fear and resistance.
This fear and resistance.
Now there's an underarm point. It's right where the bra strap would be if you wear one, and if you don't, you know where it is anyhow.
I wear one.
It's on the side of the bra.
Uh-huh.
And it's right on the bra, where the bra strap would be. And we say, this fear and resistance.
This fear and resistance.
And then we dance our fingers along the top of our head and say, this thing I don't want to do.
This thing I don't want to do.
I can really feel the fear and resistance.
I can really feel the fear and resistance.
And then we take a breath. That's called one round. So I would say to you, think about that thing you don't want to do. It was a 7. I'm not saying you're going, oh, sure, pick up the phone, I'm going to do it. I'm just saying for you to feel and give it a number again, 0 to 7. How strong is that fear and resistance right now?
It feels a lot less. It feels like probably a 4.
Okay.
I mean, it's really dropped.
Okay. Now, I got to tell you, even a 4 is different than a 7. You may be able to be more comfortable thinking about how to approach what I want to say. But we're going to do another round anyhow, okay? We've got a little bit of time. I wanted to show people because we can also add in some of the more inspiring actions, okay? So we're going to go back on the karate chop. Even though I have this fear and resistance.
Even though I have this fear and resistance.
About this thing I don't want to do.
About this thing I don't want to do.
Maybe I can do it.
Maybe I can do it.
From a place of peace and calm.
From a place of peace and calm.
Even though I still have some of this fear and resistance.
Even though I still have some of this fear and resistance.
I'm open to replacing it.
I'm open to replacing it.
With this, with peace and calm.
With peace and calm.
Even though I still feel some of this resistance.
Even though I still feel some of this resistance.
About this thing I need to do.
About this that I need to do.
What if I could handle it?
What if I could handle it?
From my highest self.
From my highest self.
With peace and confidence.
With peace and confidence.
And now we go back up to the eyebrow. I still have some of that fear and resistance.
I still have some of that fear and resistance.
At the side of the eye, I still don't want to do it.
I still don't want to do it.
Underneath the eye, because it wasn't comfortable before.
Because it wasn't comfortable before.
Underneath the nose. But what if it could be different this time?
What if it could be different this time?
What if I was different this time?
Yes, what if I was different?
Collarbone. And that's okay. This is just energy moving.
It is.
What if I came from a place of peace?
What if I came from a place of peace?
What if, underneath the arm, what if I came from a place of calm?
What if I came with a place of calm?
What if I could do this?
What if I could do this?
From the biggest place in my heart.
From the biggest place in my heart.
Take that breath.
It's done.
Now, let me say a little bit about the tears, because some people are like, oh my gosh, what happened? That is just energy moving. Sometimes people yawn, but the fear, we all have this, when we discharge fear, it is like our body shakes that off. And tears are a natural part of the tension, the releasing of the tension, because it only lasts a second. I want people to know, it only lasts a second. Next thing you know, we found a new energy source. How energetically, I mean, just, when you think about...
I felt it just, literally, it was freaky, because I felt it just whoosh out. I mean, this is a really, we're not going to get into Mia's story on air, but
yeah.
This is like the most personal, private.
Absolutely.
And so, but it's amazing, because I feel that if I come from the peace and that peaceful place that I know I am, then everything will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
The transaction of what we have to do will be smooth.
Now imagine, let's kind of blow this up a little bit so that all the focus is on this, is that we have other things we're afraid of doing, making phone calls, sales phone calls. That fear that inhibits us from being so freely being able to think, well, wait a minute, what if I showed up like that making these phone calls, these sales phone calls? What if I showed up like that, talking to people about what I do from that place that's not fear? I come across as a very different person. Business flows to me.
Right.
Sales are easily made. My intention is more around the other person and less on protection of myself. It shifts how we are, because we're no longer in a protective, I have to protect myself. We really can be the divine, right? That divine sense of I want to really be and be present for somebody else. So we come into it really serving others, ultimately because we gave ourselves the freedom to get past our own fear.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Ah.
Do you want to talk about your free gift? Because we're out of time.
Absolutely. So I know tapping is a very unusual thing for people. I like to tell people, I think in some ways that being a spokesperson from it and coming from this more academic background, that I get to say, no, really, it's not some, too weird woo-woo-ish thing. It is very interesting. It has a lot of science. The free gift is a little book I made called What to Say When You Tap, and it talks about tapping. It tells people where the points are, and it takes people through some scripts, and it is a free gift. I want to share it with people. I want them to be able to feel more freedom in their actions so that they can live the lives that they know that they're meant to be living.
Right. I think that's beautiful. Thank you. I was very, very excited about it because I just think that it's beautiful. I'm also so much calmer right now than I normally am. Probably too calm, because I've been told that I'm very calm. So thank you so much for joining us, and your information will be on in the credits.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, audience, and we'll see you in the next segment. Bye.